Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an angel therapy practitioner, Reiki master, intuitive guide, and empowerment coach. And I am here with your monthly heavenly horoscopes. I think of myself also as an intuitive astrologer. And I'm here with January 2021 for each one of your sun signs. That's your birthday sign. It's the one that you look in the newspaper and you read. I go by that just because it's the easiest one for you as the audience. If you are familiar with astrology, I would actually recommend you look at your rising sign first, then your moon, and then your sun. But for the purposes of this video, just looking at your sun is going to be terrific. So I want to talk about, 2020 has been a year like no other. And I think for me personally, there were some really great highs, and then there were some really interesting hills to climb. That's the way I want to put it, because I don't think of them as lows. So just because tomorrow is going to be January 1st, 2021, I'm not exactly sure that everything that we experienced in 2020 is over. And I don't want to go to a dark place with this. I just want to say it because I think we're in the midst of a transformation and moving the structure of how we have run our lives into a place that's much more aligned to where we want to be and what we want to experience as the soul incarnates into this human experience. So I want to start this video talking about some of the astrological dynamics that are going to be in the skies for January 2021. And I want to equate it to the idea of, let's say you were spending a day at the beach, you would definitely want to know what the weather was going to be and what the ocean conditions would be. And if it's favorable for you as just a little human to get out into the oceans and swim. So January, we have one of the main events we have is the planet Uranus, which has been transiting Taurus, is going to be squaring Jupiter and Saturn. We talked about that in the last video, the Great Conjunction. A square is a challenging aspect. It creates a tension. It creates, it's, you know how when you work out, how you tear down a muscle to build a muscle up? That's what a square does. And it is actually, Uranus is going, let me quickly say what Uranus represents: freedom, shocking events, earthquakes, lightning. It represents technology, science. It represents humanity, the collective. It also represents Aquarius, and it represents the dynamic of individualizing, understanding your own wants and desires, hopes, dreams, and sort of the hero's journey, and then coming back into the collective and bringing that journey in so that humanity can benefit from it. So it has a very interesting duality of being about yourself and yet very much about others. So that's Aquarius. Uranus rules Aquarius. Uranus is in Taurus. I know this sounds a little complicated, but it is transiting the zodiac. Taurus represents our earth. It is an earth sign. It represents stability. So when we see Uranus squaring Jupiter and Saturn, and then Mercury, Mercury's going to come into play. We hear about Mercury retrogrades all the time. And I'm going to get to that because at the end of the month, we'll have a Mercury retrograde. But what I'm saying is that this planet Uranus that represents liberation and revolution and shocking events is going to be squaring Saturn, the planet of governments, the planet of organizations, the planet of stoic discipline, of doing things the way they were taught rather than through the old tried and true ways of being. It represents old things. Mercury represents our everyday activities, the way we talk, the way we think, the way we process things, our interactions with others, our emails, our road when we're traveling on the roadways, going to and fro work. And we have Jupiter, and I'm just touching on some of these planets. They have many more aspects than I'm being able to cover in this brief video. Jupiter represents our beliefs. It represents foreign lands, foreign people, higher education. It represents priests and religion and spirituality, the connection to the angelic realm. So these three planets, Mercury, Saturn, and Jupiter, are going to be squaring Uranus. Mercury will go through this process fairly quickly. And that process is going to bring tension. It's going to bring challenges. It's going to bring, it has the potential to be very disruptive, is what I'm trying to say, in an unexpected way. And this is sort of the theme that's running through January. These three planets that are squaring the planet that rules humanity and revolution and liberation and self-expression. So, and Saturn and Jupiter move slowly, as does Uranus. So Mercury is going to go through this situation pretty quickly. And at the same time, it's going to have a ripple effect into our everyday lives. On January 13th, we are going to have a new moon in Capricorn, new moon representing new things, new dynamics. And then we see it in Capricorn, the sign of structure that is ruled by Saturn, the sign of government, the sign of visibility in the public eye, which I find very interesting. And this moon is going to be squaring Saturn and Mars, the planet of war. I'm going to summarize all of this. I know it's seeming kind of complicated, but I want to go through the dates and the planets first and then give you how I process this and how I perceive it. Because I think we're taking the themes of 2020 into 2021 as we restructure the way we look at things, and government and politics as being one of them as well as our personal belief systems. On January 17th, Jupiter is going to be in an exact square with Uranus. That means at the exact degree, the most tense, the most challenging degree. And Uranus is going to be in a conjunction, meaning sitting right next to Mars, the planet of military, of aggression, of war activities, of the warrior, also the spiritual warrior. So we may find that there's a resurgence of intense social activism and going down to our beliefs. And I think this is the running theme of the beginning of 2021, really taking the idea of the shock and the awe of the culmination of all the imbalance, and now starting to want to really look at the solutions. On January 20th, around there, Mercury's going to go into what they call the storm period. Some people think it's like 5 days. I kind of give it a 7 to 10 day window. And with all the squaring activity, it feels like as the planet slows down, it exasperates these squares, making the tension even more palatable. On January 28th, we're going to have a full moon in Leo. And Leo represents fun and pleasure and children and hobbies. And so I think I could go to the idea that a full moon is the culmination of something, but what I think it's going to do is use that bright light to put an illumination on what do we want to do in the way of living our lives in a more pleasurable way, because of all the tension we've been experiencing in January. And then Mercury will go retrograde on January 30th. So it will be hitting Saturn and Jupiter. I didn't look at the degrees, but it'll be getting close to them again. So we'll be experiencing those things again, and the theme running through into February. Basically what we're looking at is a restructuring. we are, as a society, stopping for a moment and looking at how we are running our lives. That's Mercury. Am I working in a job that I like? Am I in a relationships that I thrive in and that I enjoy? And this is not meant to be judgy. It's meant to be assessing, to start to put humanity into a lane where, as we move towards what is our deepest truth, what do we deepest believe, and are willing to be, and this is Mars in the high vibration, be willing to seek that truth. Jupiter representing our beliefs, we are transforming this planet. I don't believe that there is going to be a time when there is Armageddon where we all fall into some big sinkhole and, there's a huge do-over. I think the do-over is happening right now. And I think it's represented by Jupiter and our beliefs as a whole. It's kind of like when you go into a crayon box, you could continue to live in the eight color crayon box, or you could open up to a bigger box where there's hundreds of colors and hues that make the story and the picture ever more, it's more effervescent and it pops. So I'm going to go into each one of the signs, starting at Aries and then ending up with Pisces. I will put the timestamps in. Bear with me a little bit because I got to watch the whole video through to catch the timestamps. But I want to just really make you aware of these dates and of the celestial influences that we'll be walking through, so that if you do feel tension or you find yourself rubbing up against someone in authority to you and they are extremely unreasonable, or you find yourself reaching, I'm up to here with it, that's been sort of scheduled in the skies. And now the opportunity is for you to choose how you walk through that process, and really keeping your eye on the North Star, your North Star. Okay, let's go on and start with Aries. If you're first time here, I use 2 decks. I use Doreen Virtue's Messages from Your Angels, and I use a deck called The Legend of Avalon. I do a 4-card spread, and I marry the 2 decks together. So Aries is ruled by Mars. So everything I spoke about in the beginning of the video is going to be extremely pertinent to you. In addition to that, Mars has been traversing for the last 6 months of 2020 through Aries, and it'll just be moving out of Aries into Taurus when it makes these squares. So your ruling planet, you may feel a little bit like a warrior. And now the idea is, do I want to war for the sake of warring, or do I want to focus my beliefs in a way where I'm more influential in the way that I address the situation? All right, Aries, the first angel is Azure, and it is joined by the raven. Azure says your desired outcome will happen in the near future. Have patience and faith and don't try to force it. Mars is a forceful energy. It's not easy for an Aries not to want to move forward, not to want to push. But that card, that angel is being joined by the raven. So we have Azure. Here she is. It is effortless in what she gets to do at this point, but holds space for her deepest truth, because this is where the world catches up, and the disruption we're experiencing is part of this synchronistic events. In the opportunity or the obstacle, we have the angel Sonia being joined by the deer. And the deer often will represent fear for me, but here on the face of the card, it represents gentleness and diplomacy. Your team of guides on the other side, including those that you love and have loved and known on this planet, as well as those that you have not met in this physical experience. They are encouraging you, they are close to you, and they are asking you to be gentle and diplomatic in your approach, because you may think you see things clearly, and yet there may be information that is missing. There are other dynamics going on in the stars, other planets, and one of them is Neptune, and I'm pretty sure Neptune is making an aspect which is creating fog. It's creating a sense of feeling like I'm not clear about things. So Merlina, in the angel's advice, is being joined by the High Priestess. Merlina says you're confused and indecisive because you don't have enough information and to do research. You won't be able to do research. This research, Aries, is going to be going into the intuitive side of your body. It is going to be recognizing that you are not one physical being, heading forward, but you are an energetic being that when you stop for just a minute, your intuitive senses, think about like, when you think back in the days of the pioneers, which is what Aries represents, is pioneering, and having to walk through a forest and having to be aware of the things around you. If you move too quickly, you could hit a predator, or you could miss a meal, meaning something you could hunt. So now here is your guides and your angels and your opportunity, your obstacle, offering you gentleness. Through gentleness and diplomacy within your thoughts and your actions, it clears things up because you're getting to an intuitive place. Now in the final position, we have Merlina being joined by the Focus card. Mystique being joined by the Focus card. Mystique says, expect miraculous solutions and they will appear. They're literally coming. What does it say? Keep charging ahead. Don't take no for an answer. Expect miraculous solutions to appear. The charging ahead is in your focus. It is not in your physical movement. Because again, here's Azure saying your desired outcome will happen in the near future. Have patience and faith and don't force it. So, the main theme for Aries for the month of January 2021, as I record this on New Year's Eve 2020, is for you to be very aware that the impulse to take action will not serve you directly. Rather, allowing yourself to sit back and to realize you've taken the action that you need to, and now in some ways it's a timing issue. There are certain events that will take place. There are things that have their viability in spirit and that momentum. And plus there are other characters or players on this planet that need to come into a certain vibration in order to move the story forward. And this is an opportunity for you to see that no action sometimes is the most powerful action, because it's the intention versus the action. All right, let's go on to our Tauruses. And I, again, want to encourage, if you haven't, to watch the beginning of the video, Taurus, because Uranus, the planet of liberation, the planet of revolution, the planet of humanity, the planet of the technology, is traversing and has been traversing your sign for going on 3 years almost. Between retrogrades, etc. And this will completely liberate you in some ways. And your job will be very much to be cognizant of rather than having events hit you, how do I process those events? How is disruption the doorway to my dreams? Okay, Taurus, our first angel is Chantal, the angel of romance. The second is Mystique. The third is Desiree, and the final is Archangel Michael. All right. So the first position is the foundational position, just as a reminder. It's with the energy with which we're sitting on for January 2021. Joining Chantal is the cow. The cow is about a nourishment, abundance, asking and receiving. In the opportunity or the obstacle, Mystique is being joined by the Queen. In the angel's advice, the dog is joining Desiree. And in the final position is the serpent joining Archangel Michael. Okay. Well, again, watching the beginning of this video, I want to talk a little bit and go back to the idea of Jupiter squaring Uranus this month, exact on January 17th. I believe what this spread is saying for Taurus is that this is a time, Chantal represents romance. A new romance is imminent, or the resurgence of a romance, meaning it becomes sweeter, more viable. And that is being echoed by the cow. The cow is about a nourishment, abundance, asking and receiving. And I want to say it this way. If you are a single Taurus and you want to be in a relationship, I believe that now is the time to really think about the idea that the cow is the mate of the bull that represents Taurus, and to really start to give yourself clarity about what you want to experience in love. And that's regardless whether you're in or out of a relationship, because in the opportunity or the obstacle is mystique saying to keep charging ahead, to expect miraculous solutions. And the queen is here. The queen represents femininity. And I could talk about the, straight up just being a female, but I believe it's about reception. I believe it's about her being very calm and very much a creator, and her knowing that in creation, every creation there's a certain process to it, because this past year has not been viable in many ways. Or if it hasn't been viable to bring in new love because you've been isolated or quarantined, it may be the conditions were defining how you want to be loved. And you're being illuminated in many ways as to your own participation in why your love life isn't on track. I'm a Taurus moon, and just personally, if I was to apply this spread to myself, I never talk to spirit about my love life. I don't put any intention into it. And I think the results I get are a direct relationship to that. So this is where I'm going with Desiree and conditions. Maybe you have not been putting any, or you're getting impatient with the timing of things, and you're ready to move the story forward, because Archangel Michael is asking you to have the courage to make these changes. And there's the healer. I'm going to talk about, when I say the changes, this is about really identifying how you receive love and what you are indeed willing to give in return. When I say give in return, I'm not talking materially. I'm talking about compassion. I'm talking about seeing the best in your partner when your partner's at their lowest point, and that kind of generosity in relationship. I do want to say that I think that January holds the keys to changing your belief about your love life, Taurus, and giving it more vitality, giving it an energy where it can thrive. And I feel like it's potentially because instead of looking outside yourself for security or how somebody else is showing up, you may focus more on how you're showing up. And in doing so, you start purporting behaviors that inspire your partner or draw in a partner who is aligned to that belief. So that feels pretty good. And I want to offer it this way because one more thing I want to say is that sometimes Spirit has, I'm interrupting myself like crazy today. Sometimes when something's disruptive, it actually works in our favor. And Spirit has been saying to me repeatedly for the last 6 months that disruption is the doorway to my dreams, your dreams, to humanity's dreams. And 2020 and these squares in January and the Mercury retrograde squaring the planets of belief and authority and government could very well illuminate us and inspire us into actions that change humanity and society in a way we have only thought of in a utopian way. And that's also what Aquarius represents, which is where Saturn and Jupiter are residing right now. Okay, let's go on to our Geminis. Okay, so here on my channel, a lot of you are not familiar with astrology, having come to me through not an astrology path. So Gemini, for those of you that aren't familiar, you're ruled by Mercury. And so you're very much going to be influenced by the dynamics of Mercury this month, as it is squaring Uranus and it is going backwards. So for the month of January 2020, the first angel is Archangel Michael. for Gemini. The second is Vanessa in your opportunity or your obstacle. The third is Shanti in the angel's advice. And the final is Crystal. Crystal asking you to have faith and hope. There's more on the horizon that you can see. And this is, again, this sort of continuation. So many of us are excited about, saying goodbye to 2020. But the vibration and the energy we're walking through doesn't know a time clock. Doesn't know. Okay, here we go. Archangel Michael is being joined by the Earth Fairy, physical health, groundings, and foundations, Gemini. The opportunity, the obstacle, we have Vanessa being joined by the Baird. In Shanti, in the Angel's Advice, is being joined by the Bee card. And in the final position, Crystal's being joined by the Dragon. I want to say that, having Mercury go retrograde this month, we have, in the United States, we have some surges, some new strains of this COVID-19. So we could very much, you may be feeling very vulnerable to your physical health, to your physical experience here on the planet. And I believe what Archangel Michael is asking is to tell you that you're protected. And part of that protection comes as you start to really review your health, and your history of your health, your history of your security, and starting to put some faith into that. Because Gemini is a mutable sign. It can, it's the sign of the twins. So you can kind of go back and forth. And in going back and forth, you can tend to defer to what will be the problem, what is the challenge, what haven't you experienced, when there's many things you've experienced that have supported you through challenging times and will continue to. Because in the Angel's Advice, we have Shanti, the angel of peace, and we have the Bee card, which represents good luck, sweet victory, but it also represents my being energy. What do I believe about a situation, and what is my attitude? At the beginning of the video, and I encourage you, Gemini, if you haven't watched it, to go back, because the planet of beliefs, Jupiter, is going to be part of this square. Mercury is going to meet with these planets, your planet of thought, of how I think, how I speak, how I write, how I communicate, is going to be up against the planet of restriction, Saturn, and of Jupiter. So I do think you're going to be really reviewing your physical experience. And now Spirit is asking you to tap into the more powerful part of yourself, the part of your history that shows you that you've won. Because in the final position, I have Crystal, the angel of better things are on the horizon, and there's the Dragon. And so to me, by having the courage to really review your own life story, your own history of health, and even if you've been challenged, you've come past that, and start to invite in good health, invite in a good physical experience, both within your home. When I talk about physical experience, I'm talking about when you're driving, your car's driving well, your home is running well. This feels very much like it has a lot to do with your everyday life, everyday patterns and existence. And part of this is starting to tell yourself the story and remind yourself of the story where you really do win, and not look too far for a hole. Okay, let's go on to our Cancers. Right. The first angel for our Cancer sons is Celeste, the angel of shifting home or work. Then we have Vanessa in the opportunity or the obstacle. We have Crystal in the Angel's Advice, and we have Caressa in the final position. Joining Celeste is the fire fairy. Joining Vanessa is the queen. Joining Crystal is the wasp. And joining Caressa is the love card. I want to offer it this way. Celeste talks about a new home, a new place of employment, ushering in new positive energy. And the fire fairy talks about creative action and optimism. I think that is really, to me, when I look at this Cancer, I feel like this is what you want more than anything, is happy home, happy hearth. That this COVID thing in 2020 has been extremely hard on you. And I feel like that's being echoed here because there's a part of you that may be really thinking, oh, new year, new dynamic. And yes, on some level, there is a new year and a new dynamic, but it's still going to require your faith. It's still, Vanessa is about faith or fear, and the queen is about reception. And I feel like right now you are ruled, Cancer, by the moon, and the moon is an intuitive planet, or I don't even, yeah, it's a planet. Has nodes. It's our personal planet. It's our personal emotions, our personal intuitions. And I think you're still going to be called upon to have faith. And I think you're going to be pissed off about it, to be honest with you, at least for a while, because the angels are saying that Crystal's asking you to have faith and hope. There's more on the horizon. And the wasp is a very stingy, angry energy. So to me, it's like they know, the angels know you're going to be annoyed. They know you're like, okay, I'm kind of done with this. I'm kind of done with this constantly trying to be positive about things. I don't feel very positive, but I want to offer it this way because Caressa says you're coming to the end of a life cycle. And I think that what this is saying is that the end of the life cycle, when I'm going to draw a clarification card because of the love card. And there we have the wealth card. So this is where I was going and what I thought. I think that the deprivation and isolation that you have felt, and I'm going to say this too, because even if you have been with others, even if you have been, with your family, there's still a weird hanging energy from 2020 and this COVID thing and the whole disruption. So to me, I feel like you may be excited thinking, oh, yay, there's change coming, new year, new time, new, oh, goodbye 2020, that's done. It's not quite done. There's still some faith required from you that this disruption is actually opening things up to a much greater dynamic, and that Caressa says you're at the end of a life cycle. And that's what I think the life cycle is, to me, not the end of 2020, but the end of this old structure, the disruption that is opening the door to our dreams, because there will be an even deeper level of I see you love. I see you, I accept you, I love you for your ups, your downs, your rights, your lefts, your flaws, your perfections, because this is the card of harmonious wealth. So there is a new chapter coming. It may not be as quickly as you like. Again, I go back to the beginning of the video and the squares between Saturn, Jupiter, and Mercury up against Uranus. And Uranus will at some point be conjunct Mars, the planet of war, the planet of military action. And we have in the United States a presidential inauguration in January. And it's, I believe, on January 20th. And the exact square between Jupiter, the planet of beliefs, and Uranus is on the 17th. So this is the time period. Could get a little, oh dear, we're doing this again. All right, let's go on to our Leos. Give it a good shuffle. All right, Leo. In the foundational position is Archangel Gabriel. In the opportunity or the obstacle is Rosetta. In the angel's advice is Yvonne. And in the final position is Chantal. If you didn't watch the beginning of this video, I do mention that on January 28th, we will have a full moon in your sign, Leo. So you may want to go back and listen to that a little bit, or be aware of as we get towards that date. Pay attention to the opportunities that full moon will bring for you. All right. Joining Archangel Gabriel is the Death card. Joining Rosetta is the Truth card. Joining Yvonne is the Love card. And joining Chantal is the Perception card. Okay, Leo. January, and I'm going to keep saying this, sorry to be repetitive. Listen to the beginning of the video because there's astrological dynamics that may reveal something about your everyday life. Archangel Gabriel talks about communications, and the Death card is transformation. And I believe that this has something to do with the Mercury dynamic squaring Jupiter and Saturn. And you may discover that some things that you thought or some things that you knew about somebody have shifted. And I believe that here we have Archangel Gabriel and the Death card. This is transformation. There's some sort of transformation in your everyday life. And I don't know that it necessarily has to be a physical transformation, because Archangel Gabriel here is kind of speaking to the mercurial aspect. We have Mercury going retrograde. While Mercury rules our everyday events, our everyday lives, our teammates, our workmates, our siblings, it rules the way we think, the way we speak, the way we teach, the way we process information. So that's where I think that the transformation comes, because there's a deeper truth coming, and that comes from a deeper part of yourself. It comes from the child within, the inner child. Leo represents the fifth house of children, represents love, it represents romance, represents playful energy, hobbies, personal interests. So I really think that this is about you. Your inner child is speaking the truth, and the angels are asking you to be vulnerable, Yvonne, to what you love. Not just the people you love, but what you love about yourself, what you love about your life, and what you want to really nurture moving forward into this new year. Because I think what's going to happen is that this Mercury squaring Jupiter during this month of January, and then we also have this Mars is the truth seeker. You know, everyone talks about the military aspect, the aggressor, the warrior, but oftentimes the spiritual warrior is represented by Mars. And I think that there is a deeper truth, spiritual warrior, deeper truth, that you are going to want to really start to live and to move forward and to have be your the focus, the priority. Because in the final position is a shift in your perception in love. And here we have Yvonne asking you to be vulnerable to love, but I don't think it's the other person. I think it's about how you want to be loved, what you want love to feel like, and what you want, the joy and the pleasure you want to have from love. So there's going to be something in the way that you're thinking and the way that you're processing that is going to shift from some sort of outward structured idea. Okay, let me be more clear. You may stop caring about what other people think. You may stop caring if other people perceive you to be in the greatest relationship ever and you're not. You may stop caring about what they think and want to live to a relationship that is really aligned to what your truth. And if it has not been your truth, but a version of what looks like your truth, you won't be able to take it anymore. It'll bug you. And I don't think this necessarily shifts, like you have to break up with someone, as it may be something where you even realize that your perception or your focus has been on what hasn't worked. And there's a ton of stuff that does work. And maybe I'm going to shift my perception that way. And that's what I have to be vulnerable to, is a bigger idea that, humans are flawed by nature and we irritate the crap out of each other, really. There's no, these romantic movies we go to they're nice, but I'd like to meet one person that really lives it all the time. Just please show up, knock on my door, and tell me how you did it, because I'd like to see that. All right, let's go on to our Virgos. All right. All right. Our first angel for Virgo is Opal. The second is Francesca. The third is Rochelle. And the final is Omega. Joining Opal for Virgo is the Death card. Joining Francesca is the Frog. Joining Rochelle is the Deer. And joining Omega is the Truth card. Okay, so Virgo, the first thing I want to say is that Opal represents your children on heaven and on earth being cared for by God. And then we have the Death card. And I honestly, this is not about the death of a child. I actually think that this is about the transformation of Virgo being very practical. Again, Virgo is ruled by Mercury. Mercury is going to be making having a big conversation with some planets this month. Go to the beginning of the video to hear that. It's also going to be going retrograde. So I think what this is talking about is Virgo reviewing what is truly important to you and being willing to let what isn't die. Because in the opportunity and or the obstacle is Francesca saying, what do you desire right now? Visualize that and it will come about. And the frog represents the cleaning of my emotional house, the cleaning of my house. Well, where humans live is in the house of their mind. When you dream about a house, you're dreaming about the way your mind works or where you live. So to me, I go back to this idea of transformation, of in some ways the death of practicality and the awareness of focus, and how that will truly, as I allow myself that focus, I start to feel the shifts in my outward experience. Because in the angel's advice, Rochelle says, as you honor and follow the guidance of your heart, prosperity is coming to you, but it's so much more than money. It's feeling fulfilled. It's feeling more balanced. It's kind of going through the roller coaster of life and enjoying the ride versus bracing for something. And this Deer is about gentleness and diplomacy. And I think that this is truly about the idea that Mercury rules your mind, rules your everyday activities. It rules how you think, how you teach, what you read, what you're interested in, your intellect in some ways, your lower. It also represents the monkey mind. And I think as you allow that God is really in charge of this planet, through all your practicality, through all your planning, you really cannot stave off anything. The only thing you have power over is your perception. Again, Mercury, your perception is your mind. But look here, in the final position, we have victory, and then we have the truth card. So I think that when we get to this Mercury retrograde at the end of the month, that Virgo is going to be very willing to do a bit of an inventory, but not from a critical place where Virgo can go, where Virgo can say, I'm not good enough. I'm not, self-critical, but rather realizing that there's some things that only God can take care of. And in doing so, it's not about just handing the problem to God, but allowing God to provide a solution or an inspiration that will then motivate you into action, which will then give you an experience that will feel practical so that you can anchor it into your earthly experience. Because victory is here, but in many ways there's a part of you that has to claim it. And the claiming is to pay attention to how often your focus goes into worry, into critical thinking. And when I say critical thinking, it's strategizing from a place of attack, strategizing from a place of loss, a place of scarcity. All right, let's go on to our Libras. Can't believe it's New Year's Eve. I didn't think this day would come. And I too sort of have this feeling like the clock's going to change and, oh, it'll get better. I know I'm fooling myself. All right, Libra, our first angel is Chantal. the angel of romance. The second is Seraphina, the angel of happy families. The third is Ray in the angel's advice. And the final is Ariel. Okay. Joining Chantal is the butterfly, Libra. Joining Seraphina is the raven. Joining Ray is the partnership card. And joining Ariel is the fear card. So Libra represents partnership. It represents the contract of marriage. It represents contracts in general. Chantal talks about romance, the resurgence of romance, new romance coming in. And the butterfly represents beauty. And I want to offer it this way because for my Libras, I really feel like this is about romance. And I don't necessarily think it's about, I mean, some of you may meet somebody in January or your relationships may be stoked into a more healthy place or a more vibrant place. But I also think that this is about the idea of the Mercury aspect going on this month and really starting to think about how you processed your viability in love. You know, a lot of you who watch my channel know that I'm in my 60s now. I just turned 61 in October and I've never been married. And I'm a Libra. And we've had this square happening to us for 2 years. It's really been, Saturn's been kind of dry and erosive and feeling, we might be feeling old and like, oh, our ship has sailed. And I think that this is what Spirit is talking about, is giving life to romance and knowing that you may feel like the caterpillar that's been in the dark, but beauty is ahead, and so is the blossoming, because there's a timing issue. And there's Seraphina. The raven talks about magic, synchronistic events, and coincidence. And there's Seraphina, the angel of happy families. And I think that many of Libras, this has been a timing issue. It's almost as if we think, as a Libra, I should be able to just, I'm ready for a relationship, let's move it forward. And we don't think about the other person having to do their own journey of discovery to be ready to meet us. Because in the angel's advice is Ray and the partnership card. And it's funny because Ray talks about yoga and exercise on the face of the card, but she's sitting in a meditative position with her power chakra in the middle of her third eye, flanked by her heart chakra and her throat. I mean, the blue color being your throat chakra. So now this is a time of really spirit. And you as a Libra, me as a Libra, spending time telling Spirit how the partnership feels and that we are willing to put in the timing and then look for the coincidences. Because I think that what's happened now is Ariel says new psychic and spiritual experiences are changing the way you view yourself and others. And there's the fear card. I think new psychic and spiritual experiences in January are going to let you determine where fear represents false evidence appearing real. And I feel like there's a blossoming in this month, even though there's still some really challenging squares. I don't think that they're as, I think as humans, we're more kind of used to this roller coaster ride that we've been on. So now there is a sense of reconciliation, meaning I get it. I totally get why this had to happen when it happened. And if it had happened sooner, it may not have been as viable as it is now. Maybe any relationships that are started or revived are revived because of the disruption. Again, I'm going to sound like a harper, but Spirit says to me over and over again that disruption is the doorway to our dreams. And this would be so akin to the caterpillar going into the cocoon, thinking it's dying, and then transforming into the butterfly that's like, get me out of here. I need to spread my wings and I'm constricted in here, and feels like it's dying. It needs to get out of the cocoon. So these things are starting. All right, let's go on to our Scorpios. Oops. right. Our first angel for Scorpio is Francesca. The second is Teresa. The third is Maya. And the final is Grace and Antoinette. Francesca is being joined by the Wasp. Teresa's being joined by the Deer. Maya's being joined by the Partnership card. And Grace and Antoinette is being joined by Merlin. Scorpio, this is a little challenging. I'm not going to say it's not. Again, this month does have some challenging astrological dynamics, but these challenges are really another layer of that disruption that is the doorway to our dreams. We have some squares. Again, I'm going to say, please go to the beginning of this video to hear those astrological dynamics, because for Scorpio, you're ruled by Pluto. Pluto rules the unseen. It rules dark places like plumbing, the basement, things under. And I feel like right now you may be a little frustrated because you're tending to go to the dark side. The Wasp is a challenging energy, and Francesca is asking you, what do you visualize? And it may be that some of you are experiencing these transits in ways that are changing your lives dramatically. They're changing your attitudes about things, and they're making you feel a little bit like, when is it my turn? That's how I want to put it, because in the opportunity, the obstacle is Teresa, and Teresa talks about taking care of everybody but yourself. I mean, I think of it lots of times as a card of worry, but here it's really about being gentle and diplomatic with yourself as you learn to take care of yourself in a balanced way. Scorpio, of all the water signs, you know, people talk about your stinger and your this and that being challenging, but I think it's because you're so incredibly sensitive. And I think that oftentimes you try to be a team player and other people miss the forest through the trees. And then you're sort of left holding this bag of, well, what about me? When's it my turn? And I think that's part of why this is a challenging month, because Mercury, the planet of communications, the planet of everyday activities, is going retrograde. But before it goes retrograde, it's squaring very important planets, the planets of structure, the planet Saturn structure, stoic behaviors, depression, old, dry things. And then there's Jupiter, and I'm really going to kind of go to my beliefs. And because for my Scorpios, Maya talks about a schooling and education, and that's about partnership. And I think that it is about, on some level, your perception partnership. And I want to put it this way, because if you're over delivering because you think if I don't over deliver, I'll get dumped, if you're working too hard in the relationship, or if you're holding on to anger and expecting somebody else to work too hard in the relationship to make up for it, you're out of balance. Because in the final position is Grace and Antoinette, a card of compassion and of seeing the situation from another perspective. And then there's Merlin, which is, for me, the grand wizard. It's justice, it's balance, it's alchemy. And I think that as we, as humans, move and evolve, we're going to stop telling each other we love each other, because that has lost its influence. And I think what we're going to start saying is, I have compassion for you, which is like Avatar saying, I see you, which is what Pluto wants, what Scorpio wants, is to be seen and accepted for the depths of who and what they are, and not just the stinger. So this month is going to illuminate some of that, and you may get pissed off. It may come as the result of a challenging situation, but part of your job is to see how much focus you're putting on the challenge, and how much your willingness to step into compassion for yourself and compassion for the other side. Because if the other side is used to you in a habitual behavior, they may anticipate that habitual behavior and operate as if, even if you're not doing it. So that's where I'm going. All right, let's go on to Sagittarius. I'm thinking my Christmas tree looks so pretty. Okay. Sagittarius, our first angel is Caressa. The second is Omega. The third is Oceana. And the final is Ray. Ooh, excuse me. I dropped a card. All right, Caressa is being joined by the Risk card. Omega is being joined by the Joy card. Oceana is being joined by the Burden card. And Ray is being joined by the Truth. Okay, so Caressa talks about the end of a life cycle, that new happiness awaits you, and to allow God and the angels to comfort and guide you as you walk through this transition. And here's the Risk card. To me, the Risk card is always about having a bigger concept of things. I know I'm sounding, or at least to myself, I'm sounding slightly repetitive, but I'm going on the idea that you guys are listening to one sign, your sun sign. If you're listening to your moon and you're listening to your ascendant, I apologize for my repetitiveness, but I'm going to say it again. Disruption is the doorway to your dreams. And that's what I think Caressa is talking about when she's saying that you're coming to an end of a life cycle. And I don't think this is necessarily for everybody a personal life cycle as much as it could be a communal life cycle and a cooperative collective life cycle. We as humans on this planet have experienced, unprecedented connection in our challenges through COVID. And I think that's part of what is going on. And your ruling planet, Jupiter, is squaring Uranus for quite a bit of this month because you're both slow-moving planets. So there's going to be an opportunity to liberate yourself from old beliefs that have held you down, or those could be beliefs that are not necessarily your personal beliefs, but beliefs that have been the collective has agreed upon, because your opportunity and or your obstacle is to experience joy and to not feel victory over others, but victory over the closing of this chapter, the recognition. Jupiter represents wealth, good luck. It represents teaching. It represents higher wisdom and knowledge. It represents the connection to the angelic realm. And I feel like when Caressa is closing this door, and you as a Sagittarius is risking a bigger idea of what that chapter means. And your job is to sometimes celebrate it. And I don't mean like going out and whooping it up as much as it's like you're a scavenger hunt. And while you see that door closing, you're looking for the window. You're looking for the other door to walk through, because it's going to, right now, there may be a slight challenge. There's the burden. This is the angel's advice to actually take action on the things that are coming from your heart. Oceana to me is very powerful because we have the whale, which represents the soul's knowledge. We have water, and she's coming up through this water, but you can also see the night sky. And so there could be a thwarting of you really being able to move to the next level. And all you really can do is sit in anticipation with joy and go into how it would feel. Because in the final position in direct relation, Sagittarius, to Caressa closing a chapter, and the Risk is the Truth card, and Ray. And Ray is, for me, a connection to spirit. There's my power center, my power chakra connected to my third eye, which is connected to spirit. Then I have the green represents my heart chakra. The blue represents my throat chakra. The Risk is, I'm willing to close the chapter on beliefs that no longer serve me, on a story I've been telling myself my whole life. I am unworthy. I'm not rich enough. My boobs aren't big enough. My car isn't fast enough. Whatever your story is. And Your victory comes through joy, through saying, you know what, I've evolved through this lifetime, and maybe not everybody likes big boobs. Maybe not everybody needs a big bank account. Maybe some people don't like to drive fast. And now this is connecting with spirit as I feel burdened in transferring those beliefs from a concept and what feels like something that is intangible to something tangible, a deeper truth. And that deeper truth comes through spirit and literally asking spirit to give you experiences to anchor that truth. All right, let's go on to Capricorn. Lucky's sitting, I don't know if you guys can see him over by the couch on the floor. That's his comb. He's been spending, they did some sort of construction and put something down that irritated his feet, and he's been biting his toes. I just say that to put something in here while I shuffle. All right, Capricorn, my goats. Are you ready? Your ruling planet is in play this month. A lot of people's ruling planets are in play this month. Okay. Our first angel is Daniel, the angel of marriage. The second is Mystique in our opportunity and our obstacle. The angel's advice is Layla. And the final position is Merlina. Right, Capricorn. Daniel is being joined by the birth and the rebirth card. Mystique is being joined by the bee. Layla's being joined by the queen. And Merlina's being joined by the lady of the lake. Daniel is the angel of marriage. And, you know, he talks about bringing a partner to you. But more than the partner, he really focuses on your love history. What is your love history? Is it been so challenging? Has it been so arduous? Has it been so depressing that you can't really see another story? Because I believe that what Daniel is talking about, Capricorn, is giving new birth to the story you tell about partnerships. And that could be that you have to be the dutiful one. You have to be the responsible one. You have to be the breadwinner. Whatever the case may be, whatever the story is that you're telling is going to play very much into what's going on with this January 2021, Saturn being squared by Uranus. And this is going to happen exact in February, but it's going to be hanging around, you know, this loose conjunction for the next month. So it's going to be a theme that's going on for you. And I feel like the rebirth really comes as you start to trust a process of your own being energy. You know, Capricorn is ruled by the goat. And when you talk about Capricorn and Saturn, you get a lot of really rule followers, dutiful behavior. But lately I've been like seeing baby goats everywhere. And if you look at a baby goat, they're completely unruly. They jump up and down. They're so happy. They're really hysterical to watch. And I feel like for my Capricorns, this is asking you to be more like a baby goat. You know, you're in a process. There's no reason why, as you go through this process of rewriting the story you tell yourself about partnerships, contracts, this does not have to be a marriage that has a ring finger on it. I mean, a ring on your finger. It could be a partnership in business. There's marriages that happen in many different ways. When a person works 40 hours for a company, they've married themselves to that company. So think outside the box, because in the angel's advice, Layla is asking you to think about how you receive things. Think about your friendships. Think about how fertile your life feels for you. This is not about a straight up female to me. This is about the female energy, the receptive energy. And again, for you as a Capricorn to be aware of your own receptive energy and being willing to walk through the process of going through the dark and into the light, because we're not done yet. There's no answer at the end of this month for you. There's no conclusion to be drawn. Merlina talks about needing more research, to do more investigation. And this is the investigation is to look into your own willingness to give a rebirth to things, your own how are you viewing things that is some ways tethering you to a dynamic you don't want anymore. Because the Lady of the Lake is about absolute truth, courage, self-respect, and responsibility. But the thing I focus in on most is she's literally in the midst of an emotional storm, holding Excalibur, the sword of truth. And that is where the confusion will be lifted, is in your own truth, but that truth creates a storm. And the storm is something that you may anticipate as something that is insurmountable, but I don't think so. I think it's actually the opposite. And when you start to allow yourself to go with the rhythm of the storm instead of fighting it, and then looking, because if you're like when you're in the ocean and you get hit by a wave, if you go rigid and try to fight your way to the top, it stops nature from actually doing its natural lift up. And that's what I think this is about. There's a natural lift up and the potential of a rebirth in a partnership. And I could go very much to a work partnership, to something that feels professional, organized, governmental, authoritative in some way. And your being energy and your willingness to contemplate things from a different point of view, and your willingness to express a deeper truth of what you need and require to be the baby goat versus the old cranky goat. Okay, that's where I'm going with that. Let's go on to Aquarius. We're going to talk a lot about Aquarius over this next year. There's a lot of action happening in your sign. Very exciting things. I suddenly saw sort of like a house of, one of those like haunted houses where things could jump out at you. Lots of twists and turns this coming year. We don't expect. Because Aquarius, Saturn is your ancient ruler and Uranus is your modern day ruler. And both of them have a lot to talk about this first quarter, at least of the year, but throughout the year as well. So Aquarius, our first angel is Merlina. The second is Chantal. The third is Crystal. And the final is Akasha. A lot of cards, a lot of the signs getting love. Love must be in the air. And, I think of it not necessarily as individual love, but the collective, the shift of seeing people as humans and not just by how we've categorized ourselves. Merlina is being joined by the communications card. Chantal is being joined by the butterfly. Crystal's being joined by the love card. And Akasha's being joined by the risk card. Aquarius, Merlina represents confusion and indecision because I don't have enough research, don't have enough information. And there's the communications card. I feel like for this particular month, we have a lot of dynamics. I refer to the beginning of the video for you to listen to the astrological weather forecast. But for you directly, I feel like communications is representing your everyday life, the mercurial dynamics of what you do every day. And that may be in a very unstable place right now. I almost kind of think that, some of you may think that things are going to go back to normal, or your work life is going to pick up, or you're going to go back to working in brick and mortar, and there's still going to be fog in the air. There's still going to be things that are unexpected. I mean, we just got here in California, in Southern California, we got noticed yesterday that there's no end in sight to this, social distancing and I can't remember the official term they're saying for this lockdown, but they really want everyone to be home. Because I want to say it this way: you may be confused about what's going on in your everyday life, but there is a blossoming. And I want to say this too, because Chantal represents intimate love, and I'm going to intimate love because in the Angel's Advice, we have Crystal and the love card. So there is the potential that this confusion and this communication is actually something that you don't know, and you may be fearing the worst, and it's not, because this to me is a favorable aspect. My opportunity and or my obstacle is to blossom in the resurgence of love, my viewpoint of love, to see how a dark place could actually be bringing beauty to my love life. The caterpillar does not know it's going to become a butterfly. It does not know the beauty that that transformation has, and it is an arduous, anguished journey. But Crystal says, have faith and hope. There's more on the horizon, Aquarius, and you can't see, and it has to do with love. And then in the final position is Akasha, the spiritual teacher, and the risk card. And this is where I think is so cool, because Aquarius has this dynamic where you really want to express your uniqueness. Sometimes you feel like an alien on the planet because you feel so different than everybody else. But as you embrace that individuality and express yourself authentically, it's as if that individuality brings you back into the collective to be even more influential, to allow you for more harmony and other people to adopt the same thing. So what goes from confusion becomes the teacher. And the teacher is that risk is not as scary. It's how you communicate that risk to yourself, because having faith and hope, there could be love on the horizon, or at least something you love. All right, that's it for Aquarius. Let's go on to our final sign, Pisces. All right, here we go. Pisces. January 2021. Our first angel is Athena. The second is Maya. The third is Archangel Raphael. And the final is Yvonne. Athena is being joined by the risk card. Maya is being joined by the frog. Archangel Raphael is being joined by the bear, and Yvonne is being joined by the spider. Okay, Pisces. The first thing I thought when I saw just the angel spread was this was about there's power in vulnerability. And the vulnerability is not about putting your safety or your heart in someone else's hands, but actually putting it in your own. And this seems confirmed. Athena is about asserting myself lovingly towards what's important to me, what I want to prioritize. And this is a risk for you. Pisces is represented by two fish in astrology. It is what they call a mutable sign. So it adapts, it's in some ways cooperative with others. It's ruled by Neptune, which rules water. And if you think about water, it takes the shape of whatever vessel it's poured into. So the idea of you lovingly asserting yourself is truly a risk, because this is where you individualize versus pouring yourself into another vessel. But for me, Pisces, through the tensions of that assertion, there is an emotional cleanup that's being offered to you. There's something that you actually learned that supports your strength of your individuality, your vulnerability, the vulnerability to continue to assert yourself, because there's a healing over your own history, over your own story, where you've been, where you've come from, what people have told you about who and what you are. And as a result of that, that's in the angel's advice. That's what you will learn. That's what will help be cleaned up. Because once you understand the power of your own vulnerability, you become immensely strong, like the spider web. Vulnerability for me is never about saying, oh, please protect me, or oh, am I going to be okay? Vulnerability for me is about that deeper truth that makes me feel like, I'm just going to say it. If I was to meet somebody that I liked at this point, at this age, I think I would not be as coy about it. I would not be as, oh, do you like me? And I'll like you if you like me. I think I would just be like, you know what? I like you. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, you don't. That's just the way it rolls. And that's what I think is really going on here. And it may not have anything at all to do with your love life. It doesn't really feel like Pisces is talking about their love life. It talks about, it feels like it's talking about a general perspective towards life and asserting yourself towards the things you want. And it's not that you don't want to be cooperative with others. It's just maybe you're getting drowned out and your needs are not being met when you're being cooperative. So you're learning about asserting yourself, and you're having an experience that supports that learning process and makes it stick in a way that allows for you to experiencing things you want more in the way of partnership and cooperation with others. That's what I see when I look at Yvonne and the spider card. Because, you know, a spider web is a tremendously strong structure. And for me, Yvonne is always about vulnerability. So that is it for our heavenly horoscopes for January 2021. Please, you know, again, I'm just going to remind you to watch the beginning of this video. There's a lot of interesting transits. I didn't go through each one in the month, but I hit the ones I think are the most powerful. If you'd like to book a private reading with me, you can always reach me. My information is in the description. And I know 2 weeks ago, I said I would be back with my pick a card reading, and that didn't happen. Rather than tell you about how the electricity blew and my neighbor had his carpet replaced on those days and I couldn't shoot the video, I'm just going to promise you next Monday, I will be back with your weekly Pick an Angel spread to help you traverse life and to connect with your guides and your angels. Again, my name is Teri Hunter. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share the video. And let's put out some good intentions for 2021 to be the year of understanding. All right, guys, peace out.